Hi everyone. Hi. Late last week or earlier this week, yeah, I was reminded about Goshen. Goshen was a place in Egypt where God's children lived. Um, there was famine all over the world, but God had made preparation for his children to migrate to Egypt. And in Egypt, God made separate preparation for them to live in the land of Goshen, separated from all of the Egyptians. Thinking about it now, God could have had them live dispersed all over the land of Egypt, but God had them stay in a certain place called Goshen. And in that place, Genesis 47, verse 27 tells us that, you know, God's children settled there. They enjoyed prosperity, they were fruitful, they acquired properties in that land, right? And so basically, God had them settled in that land and they were doing just great. And they lived there happily ever after for many years until many years down the line, there was a new governor in the land of Egypt. And so by that time, the new governor started to oppress God's children. And given the father that we have, he was going to do everything to deliver his children from oppression. And so he sent different plagues to Egypt. And so Exodus 8:22 tells us about this particular plague that God sent to Egypt. God sent flies. God sent flies to invade the whole of Egypt. But God said something in Exodus 8:22. God said that the land of Goshen will be preserved from this plague. And this will be a symbol that God was in the heart of that land, right? Now, look at it. Imagine flies. Imagine you had 10 flies all over your head. That's so itchy and, right? And even thinking about it, flies have wings. They can literally spread their wings as far as they want. Like they can go as far and wide as they want. But God had them contained just to plague a certain part in Egypt. To me, that is marvelous in its own standing. Like God said, flies, you flies, just stay here. Don't touch my children in Goshen. So God had his children preserved from the plague of flies, right? Fast forward to Exodus chapter 10. Still, God was trying to save his children from the oppressor, right? Because he wouldn't let God's children go. So God invaded, overshadowed Egypt with darkness. So there was darkness all over the land. They could not move. Nobody could see anybody. They could not do anything. I can imagine they could not cook. They could not walk around freely. There was darkness all over the land of Egypt. But guess what? In Goshen, there was light. Like, talk about how amazing God is. Talk about how amazing God is. Only in Goshen was there light. And this for me brings the full circle what God says that, in Matthew 5:17, I believe, it says, we as children are the light of the world. Because God lives in eternal light. There is no darkness in him. So as true children of God, of course, we should exude light all of the time. And so in Goshen, God's children, even in the midst of darkness, in the midst of plagues, in the midst of so many, chaos, God had his children settled. I was reminded again this week that, the whole world right now that we live in can actually be seen as an Egypt. And the place where God has you can be your Goshen. Provided that God is directing your steps, provided that God is with you like he was with his children back in the day, trust and believe that you would enjoy the fruit of that land where you are. And so for you, my dears, who may be outside, who may not be in your Goshen yet, God is calling you to enjoy the Goshen that he has prepared for you. God is telling you to say yes to him, like he's knocking at the door of your heart. is asking you to invite him to come live with you. God wants to share his light with you so that you can light up the world around you. God wants you to enjoy the goodness and the fruitfulness of the land. And so say yes to him, that you may enjoy the Goshen that God has prepared for you. Amen.